Welcome to today's post-secondary senior advisories. This is going to be the first of many to come. Our Tuesdays are going to focus on out-of-state admissions. Your possibilities are endless. So in the Q&A right now, if you are hearing me, I'd like you to go ahead and use the Q&A to just tell me the names of some of the out-of-state schools that you're considering. Next screen. So behind the scenes, you might see me on the right side there, but my name's Terry Haggerty. I work as a counselor for Phoenix Union. Down under my picture here is Jamie Gosling. She's also our post-secondary transition specialist. She's the person in our district who is most responsible for helping you make your transition from high school to college. But behind the scenes, all these crazy hands people down there from College Depot are helping us produce this. They'll be answering your questions. So if you put something in the chat, you won't be able to share that with other people, but the people who are running the chat or running the Q&A, but your questions will get answered behind the scenes. Next screen. So even though it's, well, that is today's temperature, the high that we're predicting over there on the right. So might be 103 out today, but it's going to be heading into fall for all the colleges that are out east. You can get a sense of what we're going to cover on Tuesdays in September. So today we're going to cover out-of-state admissions and overview, some of the application platforms, how you demonstrate interest. We'll talk about PXU.org website because we've created a lot of things on there that are just for you if you're interested in out-of-state admissions. And we'll touch on brag sheets, show you a little bit about recommendations. We'll show you several fly-in programs that are live right now. And we'll touch on Questbridge and Cameron Futures scholarships. Those are some of the big ones coming up. You'll notice that on Thursday, we're going to give an overview of in-state topics. We'll talk about in-state visit programs, and we'll talk in depth about where to find scholarships, because that's the one thing everybody wants to know, no matter if they're going in-state or out-of-state. Then you can see on Tuesdays, we're going to kind of move through the common application. Some of you might already be ahead, and that's okay. We can answer questions on the Common App, or you can just follow along with me, or you can work on your fly-in programs as I'm talking about the Common App. All of that's okay. Notice on September 19th, we have a virtual presentation done by Union College, and especially for those of you really interested in STEM programs, including engineering, Union is a school that offers a full menu of majors, including engineering. All right, let's keep going. The first thing you need to know when you're talking about higher education is what admissions timeline are you going to go with? So you have 5 options. The first option is that the school you're applying to has a regular decision deadline. In other words, you might be able to also apply early, but you have to have applied by a particular date. That date for most schools that set a regular decision date is usually January 1st. Some schools do rolling admission. And if you want to think about that in terms of, you know, a little bit of the dating scene, it's a little bit like speed dating. What they say is they'll review your application as soon as you submit it, and they'll give you your decision. Okay. Now, there are 3 early programs where you can, before the regular decision deadline, choose to apply early, formally. One of them is early action, and you have the best of both worlds. You get to apply early, And you'll also find out well in advance of what the institution's regular response date is. Now, I want to make sure you understand that. If you apply to an out-of-state school through regular decision and they have a January 1st deadline, you're probably not going to know if you got accepted until after March, right around the end of March or the very beginning of April. But in early action, you apply early and you find out early whether or not you got in. So it's the best of both worlds because it isn't binding. So it's a little bit like dating. Some schools do early decision, which has a binding, I mean, it's a binding agreement between you, your counselor, your parent, and the school that if they decide to accept you, that you are going to go to that school. So it's a little bit like getting engaged to a school. You're really making a commitment. Some schools have restrictive early action, which is also called SCEA, single choice early action. And basically, it's a little bit like making a commitment in terms of, you know, you're, if that school accepts you, then you've only applied to one school through early action. But it's non-binding. You find out early. Okay? There's only about 5 schools in the country that do that. Yale happens to be one of them, and I believe Stanford is too. Okay, so the 3 on the left, early action, rolling admission, regular decision, students aren't restricted from applying to other institutions. Restrictive early action, you can only apply to one, and early decision, you can only apply to one. Okay, next screen. Here's the college application timeline that you'll be working with. My advice to you, if you don't know these dates, is to take out your cell phone right now and take a picture of this. So July and August, we're already past those things, but notice in September, there's something called the Questbridge National College Match, the Gates Scholarship. Those are both September scholarships. And you're going to start applying to scholarships in September, and you're not really going to stop much until you hit December. There'll be a little bit of a break, and then the second main round of scholarships begins. Notice that in October, you should be finalizing your applications if you're going to apply early decision or early action. And notice also when you hit November, those ED or EA deadlines are due. Normally, they're a November 1st deadline. You're going to keep preparing for regular decision. And some of you are interested in applying to University of California schools, maybe UCLA or UC Berkeley. Just know that there's a 1-month window of when you can submit, and that ends on November 30th. So if you want to go to a UC school, you have to have hit submit by the 30th. So you can kind of get a sense. March is when you'll begin to receive notifications from colleges unless you've applied through an early deadline. Okay, and then you've got all the way through May 1st to make your decision unless you're applying through an early program. Next screen. Couple of reminders with the deadlines in consideration. You still have some September, October, and December dates for ACT. You can see the registration deadline and the late registration deadline, but most schools, not all of them, are test optional. There are some schools that have brought back testing. So be sure to check out the institutional policy of the schools you're considering, especially if you are applying for a November 1st deadline. Because if you're taking the September 9th test, you'll get your scores back before November 1st. But if you take that October 28th deadline, or if you take that test then, your scores won't be back yet. Next screen. There's a lot of different application platforms. The one that's highlighted in the middle is the one we'll concentrate the most on, but we'll certainly answer questions about any of the other ones. The reason why we concentrate on Common App is because there's over 1,000 schools. You can kind of tell from that little map in the middle. There's over 1,000 schools that are participating. So you can do one application to many schools and then just click on additional schools and they'll also receive your application. The Coalition for College right below it is the next biggest one with about 125 schools. The UC application is you can apply to any of the 9 University of California schools through that one application. They also have something like that for California state schools. And then at the bottom right, you see Questbridge. We're going to talk about that in a second. But and then in the top left, there's the Common Black College application. Next screen. So you don't have to wait for Tuesday or wait for us to cover something if you're interested in getting a move on your common application. If you want a step-by-step walkthrough, you can participate just by clicking there, and it'll give you a tutorial that's about 8 minutes long. It's pretty new. And then there's also, from 3 weeks ago, there's a school in California that has put together a guide as well. That's about 43 minutes long. And then, Judy, can you talk a little bit about your common application? Judy? Okay, maybe not. College Depot will be hosting, I believe, on the 19th. I might have that date wrong, but
it's the 20th.
If you guys can, the 20th, thank you. If you can put information about the Common Application Workshop at College Depot, that'll be coming in the Q&A in just a second. Next screen. So higher ed institutions are as different from one another as each of you are. There are just things that make each campus really distinctive, even though each one has bachelor's degrees. Not all of them also offer graduate degrees. So depending on if it's a liberal arts college you're thinking of, or a research university, or a private school or a public, there are a lot of nuances that make them different. Next screen. So one of the things that distinguishes them are the different types of curriculum. If you were attending the 6 colleges the other day, you'll notice that some of them talked about having an open curriculum or distribution requirements or a core curriculum. All of our in-state public universities utilize a blend of general education curriculum. That means that you have to take a certain number of English classes or math classes or social studies or humanities. Distribution requirements are different in that a school like Williams might have 3 divisions. One is languages and arts, one is social studies, and the other is science and math. So students have to take courses in all 3 divisions. But they don't say which courses you have to take. And then there are about 7 schools that have open curriculum, which means that you might have to take particular classes for your major, but aside from that, it's totally open. There aren't requirements that you have. Next. There's also different types of school calendars. So as you're beginning your college search, we want you to pay attention to what type of calendar the school is on. You may need to know because it might determine when your study abroad can happen, or how many years you're even going to school. about 90% of all colleges and universities are on a semester calendar. So you're familiar with that because that's what it looks like in high school. But the thing that's different is there are much shorter um, much shorter semesters. So whereas we have more like an 18-week semester, they have more like a 15-week semester. Trimester and quarters are divided into 3 terms or 4 terms of about 10 weeks. In a quarter system, it's like the trimester system, but there's also a summer term that you can substitute for a school year term. Some schools do 4 months, followed by a 1 month, like a January term, and then 4 more months, or they do 4 months, break, 4 months, and then a May term. So what you'll notice is that will affect you. So you want to make sure that you are just noticing, because if you want to be on the same schedule as your friends back home, then it would be impacted whether you're on a trimester or a quarter calendar. And just notice that a couple of schools in the country use a block plan, which means that you'll have one class that lasts 4 to 6 weeks, and you only take one class at a time. There's only 2 schools that do that. So after their 4 to 6 week single class, then you've got about a 4-day break before you start up again. Next screen. So there's something called demonstrated interest, and you might want to brainstorm right now. Some of you might want to know how you can demonstrate interest in a school, because particular schools really care about demonstrated interest. Next screen. We'll show you some examples, like getting on a school's email list, or attending a webinar or an information session, attending a campus visit opportunity. So if you look through here, you're going to see a whole bunch of ideas of ways you can show colleges a little bit of love. One of the biggest ones is diversity or multicultural fly-in programs. Next screen. So you may want to sign up for a school's email list. That's one way to demonstrate interest. There's a whole bunch of different ways to do it. You can put the name of the school, you can Google it and put email list or contact admissions, and it will just come up. Next screen. And I also want you to notice, some of you attended the 6 colleges presentation last time. You can also get on their website and listen to recorded sessions. They last about an hour, but they also know who is attending that, because you need to give them information about yourself. And then there's also a presentation they have on fly-in programs. Next screen, please. So we want you to know how to find the fly-in program. So can you follow along on your laptop right now? Go to pxu.org. Click on Your Future, scroll down to Highly Selective Colleges, click on that little triangle, and then you're going to see the most generous colleges and universities. You're going to click on that. And then if you look over to the right, you should be able to see where it says, check out the fly-in list for 2023-2024 here. And then you just click there. Next screen. And there's also just a quick one here. This isn't about a fly-in, but it is about a scholarship that is an early scholarship, and you need a nomination. So if anybody is interested in the University of Virginia, which is an early action school, not an early decision school, but early action, they have a scholarship called the Jefferson Scholars Program, and it is a full scholarship. So even for students out of state, it's going to pay for the full cost of attendance. Definitely talk to your counselor if you're interested in being nominated. Next screen. So fly-in programs offer free airfare. They'll do the arrangements for you. There's free lodging, so you'll stay in a dorm room. There's free meals, and they do programs like on financial aid or admissions. So they'll do programming for you. It's not like you're just flown over and you're on your own for 3 days. You're not. You're pretty busy, and including meeting professors and going to classes. Next screen. Just want you to notice right now, there are some upcoming deadlines. Trinity College, which is another school that has engineering, is now accepting applications for their November programs. And their deadline is September 25th. They're a great school in Connecticut. Next screen. Lehigh University, and we've got several students, several alum there. They have the Diverse Achievers Program. And theirs is in October. Their deadline is coming up pretty soon too. So we want to make sure you knew about this. Next screen. Columbia undergraduate admissions has the engineering preview at Columbia. That deadline is tomorrow. So you need to be really heads up if you are planning on applying to that. It's an October program. And that's just for kids interested in engineering. Next screen. Smith College also has a Friday, September 15th deadline for their Women of Distinction program. And they're looking for first-gen students, but also students who are coming from African American, Latina, Asian American, Native American backgrounds. And this year's program is in person. Next screen. All right. We also want you to know where the brag sheet is if you haven't yet done it. And there's also just some tips if you are just beginning the process, but you're getting ready to do scholarships. We want you to give your recommenders 2 to 4 weeks notice, particularly if you are thinking of an early scholarship or an early admissions program. You need to tell your counselor, because that means your counselor could be writing 50 letters of rec in a month. So the sooner you tell them, the better. And make sure you're handing them a brag sheet. Notice also at the bottom, it says questions to ask college admissions representatives. We'll talk about this a little bit more next time because we'll be getting ready for that September 19th. Next one, when union comes. And one of the biggest early scholarships is called the Cameron Impact Scholarship. It's a 4-year full tuition merit-based undergraduate scholarship. About 10 to 15 exceptional students get it. They're looking for academics, extracurricular activities, leadership, community service. You need at least a 3.7 to apply, but this is a full ride that has a September 8th deadline. Next screen. Questbridge is another amazing program. It's both a scholarship program and a college application to about 50 of the top schools in the country. But in order to fit this program, you need to be both a high achiever, but also coming from a lower income earning household. And just notice that September 26th is when the application is due. If you want to do their match program where you can rank up to 15 of their college partners, the ranking is due October 12th. On the 18th, finalists will be notified. And on November 1st, finalists must submit their match requirements to their individual schools. There's a lot more to say about this, but we just wanted to give you an early heads up. Next screen. There's also a really good short video about the National College Match, which will take a little bit more time to talk you through it. And just remember, the deadline is Tuesday, September 26th. Next screen. And households usually are earning $65,000 or less. Next screen. A couple more September scholarships. It's one step at a time. It's September 30th. It's for $1,000. Supporting the community scholarship is another $1,000 scholarship on September 30th. And that's it for today. We'll have a little bit more time to answer questions in the future. Thank you for listening today, and we'll see you on Thursday.